welcome to the channel again. Today is a nice and special day because we're going to start a new series of videos into design. And into design is all about what we've done here. Bespoke Niels van Roij Design projects. And today we're going to show you the interior of Henry II, the Rolls-Royce you might have seen in the media. I'd like to invite you for that screen. That's of course the end result, and today we're gonna get you through the very early stages of the creative process, which is a series of mood boards. We don't immediately start with sketching as some people might think, especially looking at this desk here. This will come by in one of the videos we will present you with, but today we're going to talk about the very first thing we do. So of course we had a briefing. In short, I've got a Rolls-Royce. Corniche, our client said, needs a bit of love. Let's make something special out of it. Let's convert the car into a shooting brake. We established it's going to be a B-pillar backwards conversion, meaning basically the front half of the car will stay OEM with some changes to the dashboards and the door cards we'll get into later. But for today we focus on the major work we did to that car, which is B-pillar backwards. Everything was redone. No OEM solutions were carried over. So we start with the mood boards. We have 4 mood boards: lifestyle, clean graphics, brand heritage, and traveling. And today Tim and myself will take you through these mood boards and a few other things that we think are actually quite interesting to share. So the first one, like I said, will be the clean graphics. So what is clean graphics? Clean graphics, when it comes to the brand in question, Rolls-Royce, are these very clean outlines of windows, of shut lines, of bumper graphics, of side windows, of grills, etc. And of course we looked into not just cars, but also other ideas, other elements that we think match nicely with that aesthetic and match with the people that would drive these cars. So moving forward, of course, like I said, that have to match with the cars, we look into the brand heritage itself. So we are looking into headlights, tail lights, side graphics, wheels, but also, for instance, very important for a Rolls-Royce, a very heavy A, B and C pillar. That C pillar, very typical for any Rolls-Royce basically ever made, is important because it's part of the DNA. And why is it part of the DNA? Well, because most people will be traveling in the back of a Rolls-Royce, sitting behind that C pillar. You as a passenger feel protected by the pillar. Photographers and anybody walking outside cannot see you, but you can look out. The car is protecting you. That doesn't only happen in the C pillar, but it also happens with a very narrow rear window. So the graphic of that rear window is compact. You don't feel that people look at the back of your head that much. And then looking at that rear window, you see that's pushed in. And that's another very typical idea for coach building. Modern cars, every single window, no matter the brand, is being glued into the car from the outside. Here it's the other way around. So there's a certain thickness, if you like, of the bodywork surrounding that window. We move on to the next page, and of course we're flying through this, but in real life we take quite a bit of time to discuss this with our clients, and we look in this case to the lifestyle. So not just current day lifestyle of Rolls-Royce owners, but also back in the days when this car, Henry, as the car was baptized by the family, when Henry was new before we started with the conversion and Henry became Henry II. So when Henry was new, where would these people travel? What kind of hotels? What kind of shoes would they wear? What kind of drinks would they have? What kind of jackets, sunglasses, etc., etc. Tailor-made suits. All that information goes into the design process before we start and pick up a pen and a piece of paper. We move on to yet another mood board, because this client told us we're going to travel with this car. We might be in the UK, we might be in Switzerland, we might be in other countries, but we definitely will travel. So what does traveling mean? What kind of scenery will we see? And how do we take our luggage? Important questions to ask, because that car has to look good right there in that scenery. So moving on again, that type of visual information we distill from the car and we move into very conceptual sketches. These are, of course, by no matter of imagination close to a car design, but if we move in and zoom in, you can see something is coming up. Tim will share a little bit. We just skimmed the surface, but he will share a little bit on what it is that you're actually seeing here.
Yeah, so these are all shapes we recognized in the existing interior of the Corniche or other interiors that fit to the brand. If you can look closely over here, you can recognize the profile of the front dashboard, which we then layer and size and put over a side view of the car to create interesting shapes and volumes.
Yeah, just to add to that, if you look very closely, the side view of the interior he's talking about, of course.
Yeah.
So this is the dashboard with the steering wheel, this is the front seat, and this would be where the rear seat would be situated, and the C pillar of the car. So A pillar, B pillar, and C pillar.
Yeah, because we're trying to develop a new B pillar backwards interior. From all these shape ideations and shape applications, we made a selection of 2 of them, which you can see here. So these we found most interesting, and we tried to develop further.
Yeah, so we made dozens of them, right?
Yes,
many different iterations of these different ways of applying graphics to an interior of a car. Not at all working on sketches, on line quality, on anything like that. Very conceptual to see what we could do to divide such a large space suddenly, because the interior used to be compact, is now almost 3 times the size it used to be because of that flat folding rear seat. And now we are applying new shapes to break up that interior space into sizable chunks that we can design, that we can produce, that we can upholster,
Yep.
and make into wood, into leather, into all the different materials. So, very conceptual again. A little bit of shape of interior can be spotted here, but you can still see there's a lot of notes and a lot of yes and no's, a lot of crosses. This is not applicable, that's not looking well, that might be interesting but still needs a lot of work. How we're going to do this with lights, with wood, with all the other materials. So, moving forward, we go to the next set of mood boards actually. So car design is very iterative. We move back and forward. Let's say 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. And why do we do that? That's not a waste of time. It's actually the opposite. If we wouldn't do that, we never know for sure if the route that we picked is actually the right route. We want to continuously reflect our choices or decisions or thinking to, let's say, the Bible that we wrote in the beginning. This is the essence of the project. That's where we want to go to. And in the creative process, we do a lot of, let's say, detours, and we make sure that all the detours are checked with that Bible. And only when that is correct, we're not just designing a nice car, we're designing a relevant new design for a Rolls-Royce, not just any shooting brake. Very important. So that distinction makes that we do these trips and we continuously check back, and then we start eliminating ideas. So moving towards the end of the video, we can show you mood boards that we made towards the end of the ideation process, where we looked into a host of different possibilities again to application of materials, right? And you can talk a bit about that, Tim.
Yeah, so this mood board is called Subtly, and we made 3 of them, one being subtle, one being a bit more out there, and one being fully outspoken. And this is purely for the client to see what kind of materialization do I want to apply on my new interior. So this one is subtle, as you can see. A lot of ton sur ton, a lot of volumes from shadows, but very modest and subtle.
Yeah, not overly outspoken colors. We're looking into layeredness of leather. Yeah. We're looking into, let's say, quite known areas of interior color and trim design. Yeah. So no extreme colors, no extreme stitching, no, let's say, materials that are not necessarily used that much in automotive. And then if we move forward, slightly more outspoken, you see slightly bolder, slightly more outspoken color choices with a dark brown, a dark green, and a contrasting piping running in between the two brown layers. We see quilting, rougher layers of leather and carpets. Again, more outspoken, contrasting ideas when it comes to tweeds, for instance, that we got from our first mood board, the very first mood boards where we looked into where do these people go, what hotels, what tailors, and we went like, tweed is an interesting material because it's very relevant to the English culture.
Yeah.
So, and then a even more radical, outspoken way of applying materials with very bold applications of graphics, extreme layering, more outspoken bright work onto the leather, more contrast between the different colors, contrast between even a front and rear of a car, and different embroidery ways of applying embroidery to the materials, and of course bold and more popping colors and tweed surfaces. So that brings us to the end of this video and the last mood board we're going to discuss today. Because in this mood board you actually see some applications that we applied to the car, not in a literal shape or form, but there is a certain sense of subtlety, but still the right amount of character between, for instance, the wax coat and the corduroy here and the inside of the wax coat or the inside of the corduroy jacket. So these subtle details we actually thought would very much be relevant for the car, and that's why on the inside of a door pocket we actually applied tweed. On the inside of a pocket on a leather seat we applied tweed. So the seat looks entirely beige, but then when you open that pocket up, inside there's the little surprise, the Easter egg of tweed. So first mood boards, tweed as a possibility, it's in the back of our mind, but how to apply it? Are we going to do that very explicitly on large surfaces on top of a dashboard? Now later on we say, okay, that tweed is very interesting, but we're going to calm it all down and actually make it relevant for this specific client, this specific brand, and this specific briefing. Very important. We don't design for us, we design for an end customer, and he or she is in the driving seat, and their character, their viewpoint, the way they're going to use the car, that's something very important for us to take forward into the car design. So moving forward again into this mood board, rounding up the conversation for today, you see also a lot of stuff that we didn't apply, and that's a theme that you will find in the coming videos of Into Design. That is very, very common in car design. So sometimes it's been called working for the dustbin. 90%, maybe even 98% of the work we do in the studio is actually not being used. You see only a very tiny amount of sketches laying here on the desk, and I think it's 2 centimeter worth of A3 sketches that we made here. The large majority is not used, but it is used, but not applied. Yeah. It's used as a reference point. Remember, we have the Bible, we have all these beautiful sketches with great colors and materials. We go, oh, that looks great, it all looks great. However, linking back to that core essence of the project, that's what we're continuously doing, and that's what we'll show in the next video. So, thank you for tuning in, and see you for the next video of Into Design.